And before we close, I wanted Jeff Holman, who's in the back, to talk about his gifts that he has. Everyone here gets some gifts before they leave. And Jeff, if you'll go ahead and tell them what you're going to give them, appreciate it.
I just wanted to let you all know, you probably have no idea how this video is blown up, but we do. Just at East Kentucky Power, our Facebook got 30,000 hits on this video alone. I've had utility companies from all over the country call us and ask to share it, along with our 16 co-ops that own us, like Jackson Energy. Washington, D.C. has contacted us, TVA, Big Rivers, Wabash Valley, Hoosier, all these other utility companies that have shared this beyond anything you can imagine. And the reason that it's an incredible success is you all. It's the story you told. It's just so genuine, and it really is making a difference. I don't know if EPA is listening, but a whole lot of other people are. So I hope that eventually they are too. Just a small token from Jackson Energy to say thank you. One thing we think is pretty cool, these are coal candles. This is candle wax that looks like coal. There's a company in Liberty, Kentucky called Goose Creek Candle Company, and they donate proceeds to miners that are out of work to help pay for food, medical, utility bills. Everybody here gets one of these. They're all different fragrances. Also, we brought a bunch of energy efficient lights, enough for 5 or 6, for each of you to have 5 or 6 compact fluorescents. These are 75 watt, but they only work like a 20 watt bulb as far as that goes. They don't use much energy at all. And we have backpacks here to put everything in. Randy and I will be back here. Please, we don't want to take any of this back. None of it, believe me. So come back here and thank you again so much for what you've allowed us to come into your community and help tell your stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, in closing, I hope that you found this meeting to be informative and educational, and that you know what Jackson Energy is going to do in the future. There's a lot of uncertainties coming in the near future, but I know without a doubt that if we pool our resources and that we work together, that we can make a difference, and Jackson Energy is committed to do just that. And now, as we conclude this meeting, if there's any questions about any of the material that's been presented tonight, we'll try to answer those now. And if you have questions about some other things due to the time, because we've kept you a little bit longer than we wanted to, we're going to stick around. Jackson Energy employees and East Kentucky employees are going to stick around to talk with you one-on-one about some of your issues. But at this time, I'll open up any questions that you have about anything that you saw tonight. Yes, sir.
When does the EPA rules go into effect?
Well, the EPA rule, they're in a comment period right now. The states have to have their plans in place and implemented. I think it's 2016. Yes, sir.
What's the chances of Jackson Energy, KU, and Kentucky Power and all that, are y'all combining a coalition with the county, such as the new Lyman School that's went in at Hazard Community, in a way of sponsoring some type of scholarships that would give you all tax breaks and send some out-of-work miners or some really qualified kids maybe to Hazard Lyman School to come back here and work for you in the high-paying skilled jobs? Is there any way that you all can start working on stuff like that in these lower counties such as ours?
You may be surprised, but Jackson Energy is already doing that. We're a nonprofit cooperative, so we don't get any tax breaks. However, we're very instrumental. We actually helped create the Lyman Training Center in Somerset, who used that program to create the one in Hazard. And that's what we do at Jackson Energy. We actually recruit from these schools. All of our linemen that we've hired in the last 5 or 6 years have come directly from the Lyman Training Centers. We're not going to steal those from other utilities or other contractors. We're actually recruiting from those schools. So we're trying to do that. But as you know, right now the economy is pretty bad and we're not hiring. So that's an issue, finding jobs for those out-of-work miners, especially that are graduating from that Lyman School in Hazard. I do know that the other utilities, Kentucky Power, are looking at those students. But as you know, the jobs just aren't there right now. We're not growing, those other utilities aren't growing. So that's an issue. But we are actively involved and we will recruit and hire from the schools.
And one of the big things they talked about at the SOAR meeting was
implementing training in the schools, even as low as 7th and 8th grade, getting kids started on the path of choosing a career when they're 12, 13 years old. Could Jackson Energy possibly team up with any of the schools in the area to start getting kids looking for a career? Right now, they're going out to apply for jobs at the grocery stores and there's none left.
That's right. We do have a full-time person, and that's Haley McCoy, that's actively involved with all of our schools in all of our counties. She has many different programs, and I'll let you talk to her one-on-one about what we're doing to team up with the schools to try to educate them now, even at an early stage, 7th and 8th grade. And she's also doing some really interesting things with high school students and the vocational schools. So I'll let you talk with her one-on-one.
I just have one more question.
Sure.
I was told to ask about the prepaid boxes. I'm a user of the prepaid boxes myself, and I think it's the best thing y'all done. How do the taxes work, local, state taxes? I know people who get electric bills receive taxes on their bills, and of course, us with the prepaid boxes, we just come down and give you $10, $20 a week and go back home. Do people with the prepaid boxes still pay taxes?
Yes, they do. The way the prepaid set up, those taxes, including your fuel charge and environmental, are prorated on a daily basis. So that is added on a daily basis. So yes, you do pay those, just like every other member.
For the prepaid boxes, could Jackson Energy possibly remove the service charge without affecting its employees?
And service charge, which charge is that?
I believe they add a service charge, like if you put $10 on your box, it takes $1.50 to
Yeah,
put it on
the
the
transaction fee?
box. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the $1.25
Would it
transaction.
be possible to remove that fee for the people who's paying $10, $20 a week just to have electricity? What I'm saying is, if you've got people who are able to pay their bills, then you're going to have more customers paying their bills.
That's correct. We've actually talked about that internally at Jackson Energy, and we know that $1.25, a lot of people pay frequently. Some people pay every day. So that's $1.25 that comes out of their money instead of going on their electric bill. We've talked about that internally, and that is a tariff with the Kentucky Public Service Commission. And if we were to make those changes, we would have to go back to the Public Service Commission and get that approved. But that is something that we can consider and that we have been talking about internally. You're welcome.
Carol, I just wanted to add, one gentleman asked the question about hiring the miners, and there's the Hiring Our Miners Every Day grant that EK Self has, and that's something, if your local businesses are hiring miners, that Senator McConnell helped them in getting that grant. So it's like, if you hire a miner that's laid off, then the company that's hiring them gets part of that person's salary back, and that's through the EK Self program. And so that's something that we've worked with in trying to help the miners to get other jobs, and to also help businesses to hire miners.
Thank you, Donna.
Well, in speaking of that, just what you spoke about there, what would be the possibilities of Jackson Energy partnering with Daniel Boone's site program that fund retraining for these dislocated workers? That's basically the same thing. Daniel Boone has a site program to help retrain. Could Jackson Energy partnership in some way with them and with Solar, maybe with Hal Rogers' thing, and come up with places like Donna here to go to school for a year and come out an electrician and get a high-paying electrical job where he could work in the county to market jobs for Clay County. I don't want Don to have to go to New York City to work. I want Don to be trained at Daniel Boone to come back down here and work in Clay County and make $15 an hour. Because it helps us not to market jobs in New York.
I agree.
Is there any chance that Jackson Energy, Daniel Boone, Mr. McConnell, Hal Rogers, Solar, you could all put this together where you could retrain these people and anybody else that's out of work, like her grocery store people that lost their jobs? Could they not go to Daniel Boone and retrain to be electricians and work in the local homes around here?
That's a very good thought, and that's something that Jackson Energy would be open to. We're willing to help any type of retraining efforts to put these unemployed members back to work. So that's something that we can look at. We haven't yet, but that's something that we're open to. Yes.
Daniel Boone, we spend about $9 million a year in Clay, Laurel, Jackson, Rock Castle training, and then people with houses. I heat, we spent about $4 million that paid electric bills in the last 2 years at Daniel Boone. We get a lot of money from Senator McConnell, And Congressman Rogers, they fund us pretty good. We do a lot of good at everybody.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Yes, sir.
1956 or 57, I heard my father sit around in a group of men talking about how Clay County was in real trouble. Coal was dead. And we've had a boom or two in coal ever so often ever since then. But we're still having the same conversation. And whether it's environmentalists that kill coal, or politicians that kill coal, or exhaustion of the resources that kill coal. Before I've been dead too terribly long, good Lord willing, there won't be any coal. We got to quit living in the past. Now, Jackson Energy, I would believe, wants to sell electricity, manage electricity, and manage our homes and all. What are we doing to turn the direction away from combustion-generated energy to solar and wind? $1.5 billion is a drop in the bucket on that project. It's a lot of money for you all. But it's building plants that are of necessity obsolete almost by the time they're built. Especially the way that, not your fault, not your engineer's fault, but the way politicians and environmentalists and others. We're in the Cardiac Valley. We have the highest cancer rates in the world. It's pretty well established that it's from not coal, but from the mining of coal, the explosion, the blowing up, the turning loose of selenium and all these other chemicals on our population and poisoning our water. And now we're fracking and poisoning our water. Solar and wind are cheap and they're pure. What are we doing to try to change direction?
Well, that's a good question, those distributed generation resources. First, let me speak about wind just briefly. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Kentucky does not have enough wind to sustain one of those big turbines turning continuously, so the cost is prohibited on wind. In the western states of the United States, they're putting those wind turbines up and they're selling that power, but you're going to have to transmit it across the western United States to eastern to get it here.
Market just north of Indianapolis, they just
Right.
miles and miles
Right,
and miles.
and the problem with the wind is transportation. Once you generate it, is transporting it to those states that don't have wind, and that can make it cost prohibitive. As far as solar, Jackson Energy has several solar net metering customers. They actually installed solar panels, and we put a net meter on there, and they produce electricity, mostly, not all of them, enough for their needs for a month, but surely enough to supplement their monthly electric bill. We have net metering tariffs in place that allow that to happen. As far as any large projects in the state of Kentucky, there aren't any. Jackson Energy has looked at that. We've even considered maybe doing a solar project ourselves of a large magnitude. There are state laws that prohibit large installations by members. I think we're limited to 30 kW with the laws that are in place now. So solar is coming along, but you're going to have to change some state laws for it to come along even further. And the cost, like you said, it's coming down. In the beginning, solar was really expensive. Your payback was, 50 years plus. As more people come in and use solar, that cost comes down. So in the future, I do expect to see a lot more solar, but probably not wind in our territory.
If someone in your service has a curiosity about solar at their home or their business, do you have that kind of consultant?
Yes, we do. We have several engineers at Jackson Energy, and we talk to members on a weekly basis when they have a question. Maybe they want to install a solar panel. We have engineers that can direct them to the right places to talk to and what they need to know. So yes, we do. Please call us. We'll be glad to give you the information that we have.
What's the chances of Jackson Energy or Kentucky Power, either one, combining and working a coalition with Clay County High School, possibly to buy electric lab equipment, supply the schools with electric lab equipment, so they can start training these kids in electrical and solar power and stuff, working with the Perkins Fund. Just put it all together in one big collaboration where the students said, where a counselor said, "What do you want to be?" "Well, I just love being an electrician, solar power." We'll just go right over here in this lab and go to work, and where they get that kind of interest and they really start liking it. You're looking at people someday could be CEOs at Jackson Energy. Because they started in freshman in 8th grade loving electric and wanting to do the power thing, and you all actually put them there. Someday they could become awesome assets of your company.
That's true. And like I said, we're open to doing that. We're open to partnering with any other utilities. Kentucky Power is the one that you mentioned. You know, they're farther east than we are, but we do partner with other utilities to provide those training opportunities in school. And we would be open to do that. That's something I know Haley is sitting here, she's taking all of this in. She's one of our younger employees, and she has an initiative to help training in our schools.
Good
So
example.
that's exactly right.
But
Haley's
now,
one of
who do
them.
you see, or will you contact the schools and Daniel Boone and these places and talk to them about these plans that we've talked about today?
Oh, yeah, I work with the schools regularly, particularly Dr. Deanne Allen, who's your instructional supervisor, and builds curriculum for Clay County schools. You know, pretty close, and we work together regularly.
So you will be going in with some of these items and talking about this. Great, that's wonderful.
Yeah, we not only are going to try to recruit some industry and get some different jobs here, we also are heavy supporters of education. Of course, we offer scholarships. We have someone dedicated to work with all of the schools in our region. So we want to do that.
Well, there's another idea then, since you all do want to recruit the industry and bring all this stuff in here to us, possibly in the next year, 2 years, according to how things go in the next county elections, Elk Hill could take off as a super big thing for Clay County. And it's in Jackson Energy's electrical area. Could we work with you all on, let's say, we put 250 RV hookups up there? Is there ways of working with you all where the electric bill there doesn't break us once the county tries to get things like that going?
Right.
You know, and could you work with us in putting poles everywhere to make sure the Indian tribe gets electric, the four-wheeler park gets electric, the bow shooting range gets electric, the gun shooting range gets electric, the call service center, we're trying to get a customer service center up there located there, that they would get electric, and you all could make us one big deal where that every one of these places will have your minimum small electric bills on, at least for a 5-year period, while we did $1 leases to get these companies on their feet and them hiring a minimum of at least 100 workers full-time.
Well, what we can do is help with the infrastructure. You're talking about the poles and the meters and making sure everybody had electric service. That's something that is well within our rights and not against the law. However, we do have rates and tariffs, and everybody has to have a meter, and they have to pay the tariffs rate that's approved by the Kentucky Public Service Commission. So there, that might be a little problem about what you were talking about, giving them a cheaper rate. It's got to be a rate that's approved by the Kentucky Public Service Commission. But something that you're talking about, a large recreational facility, we would be more than glad to look at that to see what we can do to provide that infrastructure. So, you know, that helps a little. But again, everybody has to pay a tariff rate.
Well, we would think that was an incentive if they knew, if they moved there and they came there, that Jackson Energy was going to step in and say, look, here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. We can't change much about your rates, but we can get some poles up, we can get some electric running here, we can have a county, you know, we can just kind of all put together the incentive. All these things come to help out, because that's our lifesaver. It's sitting right up there with nothing on it. It's our lifesaver. And maybe in the next 2 years, it will be.
Well, that's
But
right.
we will need to partner with Jackson Energy to make it work.
And that's what we're willing to do. We want that facility, we want it full. Doesn't matter if it's recreational facilities or a large manufacturing company. Jackson Energy wants that field, and we're willing to partner, and we're willing to help. So yeah, we would be open to try to help with that infrastructure. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I really appreciate you coming to this meeting. And like I said, Jackson Energy employees and East Kentucky employees are going to stay back and answer any of your questions. And be sure to go back in the back table and get some of those nice CFL balls and some candles. Thank you all once again.